Eric, what do you got going on over there? But hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hoops Rehab Show on a Wednesday night. We got one team already going to the finals, and my man Eric B. Mack has a broom.
I
What's it
know.
for, Eric?
I know. I had it a couple of shows ago, and there was no sweeps. But this is my gentleman sweep broom, so we're gonna have a couple of these. It looks like hint for tomorrow.
Ooh, okay, you're already predicting it. Okay.
Tonight was big time. The way that game turned out, a gentleman's sweep, and so that's why I got my broom.
Got it. All right, everybody. As always, I am the game injury doc, aka Dr. Evan Jeffries, and on my right is Eric B. Mack. You can find us on all platforms at these handles, at Game Injury Doc and at Eric B. Mack. We also have the Hoops Rehab Show YouTube page, so please subscribe and follow along and comment, all that good stuff on there. We would greatly appreciate it. And then we also have the pod that we will upload after this live video. It'll be available on Apple or Spotify, however you get your podcast, but that is the Hoops Rehab Show. And as always, everybody, we want you to comment. We want you to be interacting with us while we are live. So if you're streaming from YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram, please comment and we'll get it going in the show. All right, Eric, let's get it cracking. How was this game 5? Obviously, it was a blowout, but what did OKC show you?
Well, they showed me again and again that they're for real. They're finals bound, first time since 2012, I believe, when they played the Miami Heat. Obviously, those were the Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, James Harden days. And so SGA Shea showed me again. This is 11th 30-point plus performance of the playoffs. Which is pretty amazing in what 16 games, right? Because they played 4, 7, 5. If that equals 16.
Yep.
So MVP. Sometimes there's an MVP awarded, and that particular team goes out early, or that player doesn't perform to an MVP level. But I think people that had any doubts who the MVP was this year, I think he's kind of showing them like, hey man, it was mine, and I'm going to lead my team to a championship. And so Minnesota obviously didn't show up to play. That game 4 loss was a heartbreaker for them. And, obviously they had planned to win, I assume, but I mean, from the get-go, I think we pretty much knew what the result was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, looked like Minnesota right off the bat had their bags packed. They're ready for, what, school being out. But they definitely didn't come to play. They were missing every shot. I mean, just a terrible first quarter. Scored 9 points, and that was pretty much an indication that they were not going to have a chance in this game. And we've talked about it all playoffs long. OKC's defense is probably one of the most elite defenses I've seen in a long time in a playoff stretch, right? The way they can just smother a team and then throw 10 deep and just keep the legs fresh, keep coming with guys that body people constantly. Sometimes they can even have the players that are undersized play big, and they dominate those bigs, which is like something that you don't really see out of a team, especially players like Caruso and Lou Dort that just like really get into the body of players and do not give up space. And you saw it all series long, especially on display tonight.
Yeah, man. Game 3 was definitely an anomaly where Minnesota obviously was the one game that they won. And so the other 4 games, it was pretty much just OKC's defense pretty much suffocating Minnesota. They really, at the end of the day, had no answers. Game 3, they got really hot, and those things happen in a playoff series or run. And like to your point, they just made life hell for the Minnesota Stars. And Edwards was just not getting anything easy. He wasn't able to drive as freely into the paint as he did the first 2 rounds. And then they picked him apart on offense too. You know, the head of the snake, SGA, just his smooth self. They couldn't unsmooth him, if that makes any sense. Like, he was getting
I
to his
got
spots, right? You would have been screaming all series long. They got to make it uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
They send
Yeah.
multiple guys. They got to pick him up full court. And again, we know that those are things that probably teams thought about, but I
Yeah.
don't think I really saw that. And so,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it just wasn't in Minnesota's, wheelhouse and strategy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they never really adjusted to
Yeah. I was disappointed that they never put pressure on him in any type of way. Like they never tried to. I mean, there was maybe game 3 where he was off, and they kind of sped him up just a tad, where they
Yep.
would jump the screen, they would jump the pick and roll, and really kind of create pressure. But other than that, they really didn't do much. And you can talk all you want about him being a free throw merchant. He shot 4 free throws tonight, right? And he still had 34 points. He was able to slither through the basket, like left hand, right hand layup. You know, he's on the right side of the basket, lays it up his left hand. He's just so crafty, and how his ability to score. Obviously, he's an MVP for a reason, and there just wasn't much stopping him, right? I mean, he is what they call a bona fide stud.
He is, yeah. I mean, we've talked about it. He's not going to jump out the gym. He obviously is athletic, but he's not going to kill you with his athleticism. He's just crafty, as you mentioned a couple of times, knows to get to his spots, just super lethal from the mid-range game. And so, for those out there, in terms of just like worrying about the long ball, which he can do too, he's demonstrating that, hey, there is still room, and there's still that's still something that can be in someone's game and be super effective. And so, of course, drawing contact, only shot 4 free throws tonight, made all 4 of them. I mean, he goes up there and makes them too. So that's part of it as well. Yep. And just really, really couldn't be stopped all series long.
Yeah, definitely. And then just overall, like they are so deep, and I would say on the other, when you look at the Eastern Conference, right, there's some similarities between Indiana and OKC.
Yep.
Like in my opinion, they both are so deep that they can just bring in these fresh legs, right? So even our boy Cam Miller, right, he commented, young, fresh legs for OKC. And that's exactly what you see on the nightly basis. And I think Indiana is one of those teams that can match that. They don't have the talent level I think OKC has, but they have a lot of those similar guys that can really just come out there, play as hard as possible, give their all for those 20 minutes that they're in the game. And then Indiana is just a much more like up-paced type of team, but OKC is right there on offense as well. So they're similar in that way. I'm not saying Indiana's going to win it just yet, even though I know Eric kind of
wink
said we get a little wink on that one, but I feel like they're similar styles a little bit, and it'll be kind of interesting to see if that is a matchup down the stretch.
Yeah, and the odds are that is going to be the matchup. Obviously, we'll talk about it more when it's official. But yeah, I think it's going to be one of those like finals if it comes to fruition. That like other than being the finals and obviously going all out, like we're going to see semi like fresh legs for those teams. Yeah. Let's say if Indiana finishes it off tomorrow, they both are going to have about a week off, and then as you mentioned, they're both very deep, and so. That'll be a very contrasting style with the team being very proficient and prolific offensively, and then one pretty damn good offensively and just obviously amazing defensively. So it'll be not your big market darling finals. Again, if we get there, we're probably jumping ahead, but it will just from a basketball standpoint, it will be interesting to see.
For sure. I wanted to get into this question here on YouTube by Dat Meskin JB. If y'all was the Wolves coach, is there anything you would have done differently?
Kind of talked about it, but
we've kind of talked about it, and I've kind of like preached it throughout the series. Is just I would have tried to make anybody but Shea beat me. And I would have thrown a lot of doubles at him. I would have tried to pressure from more of a full court, 3/4 of the court pressure throughout when he's dribbling it up there, just to get him more tired, right? Like whether or not that's going to work the whole game, but just keeping pressure constantly on him, I think could have sped his game up. Because if you look at Shea, he's probably the smoothest, most controlled player in the NBA right now, as far as a guard. Like he's not just so quick or he's not so herky jerky. He's just like a freaking smooth criminal out there. And I would have tried to pressure him. I would have just tried to put as much pressure onto him as much as possible and let the other guys beat me. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo that, thanks, Dat, Messick, and JB. But yeah, like if I know they probably have their principles, and they were like we mentioned, they were a top. Talk about Minnesota, we're a top 10 defensive and offensive team. Mm-hmm. The only team in the NBA that was that, and so they probably had their principles on defense. But when you have one guy tearing you up like they did, I think flying at him with another guy would have been better or more suited for them. Hey, I mean, the Chet and Williams did a hell of a job too, so it's not like it was all SGA. Yeah. But if you take the ball out of his hands and you let Caruso, which again he's been really nice offensively, if he beats you shooting threes, and so be it. And also I think Minnesota was just not getting easy baskets. And if you're going half court on this team, as you saw, that's just not going to happen. So I think with them being a little bit more aggressive on defense would have potentially caused more turnovers, making easier baskets more possible. And then Ant on the offensive side, I think they were settling for jumpers. OKC was baiting him into doing so. And Minnesota's not a good 3-point shooting team. Mm. And I think some more action with Ant getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line, kicking to more so open guys, I think would have gone a long way. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's very obvious who the better team was. I don't know what exactly could have been done to change it, other than maybe doing what we spoke about and maybe extending the series a bit. But yeah, that's kind of what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I thought at some point they should have gone a little bit smaller and got Rudy out of there a little bit more. And there was a time where I thought, at least going into game 3 or 4, that they would have switched the lineup a little bit. Maybe got Naz Reid in there, or even gone smaller with Randall at the 5, just to see if they could speed up the game a little bit and just change what they were doing against OKC. But hey, I mean, I think either way, OKC was going to win the series regardless. And they were, I mean, I was just thinking about going into the playoffs, how everybody seemed to underestimate what they were this year, right? They're they're the number 1 seed. They won the most games. They got a good defense. They got a good offense, but nobody's really picking them to win the championship. And after seeing these playoff series, you can say obviously they're the most stacked team, and their defense is definitely number 1 defense in the league.
Yeah, I think we talked about it early in the playoffs, how whatever it's fan base, the media, we tend to favor those like veteran teams in the playoffs, and so we tend to say, OKC's too young, they haven't been there before, they're gonna fall somewhere in the playoffs. But they've proven, no matter who is in front of them, that they belong, and now they're in the finals, and they are going to be big favorites regardless of who they face. And you know what? And they have gone through, like last year, they went through heartbreak, and sometimes it takes that to kind of pull forward or move forward the next season, and that's really what they've done.
Sure. Yeah. They're pretty incredible. Obviously on the way to the finals.
Defense, man. That's it wins championships, right?
What wins championships? Defense.
Yes, it always does.
So
you got to score. You got to score too, but you got to mix in some phenomenal defense as well.
100%. All right, so that brings me to Minnesota, and what
Yep.
do they do next? Obviously, they've gotten to the conference finals back-to-back years. Once with a Karl Anthony Towns team with Ant, right, and then once with Julius Randle led team, or not led team, but just as the second guy there.
Yep.
So where does Minnesota go from here?
Man, it's tough because, as you mentioned, if 2 years ago you tell a Minnesota fan base or what have you, hey, Timberwolves are going to go to the conference. We're not going to tell you what the result is, but Minnesota's going to the conference finals the next 2 seasons, and I know they would all sign up for it. Last year they were a 3 seed. This year they regressed a little bit. They were the 6 seed. However, they were 1 game back from the 3 seed, and you can blame it maybe on the trade and getting acclimated. So it's like weird because one side you're like, man, they overachieved. But the problem is the 2 conference finals that they had, the appearances that they had were 5-game just didn't look pretty type series, and so they met their match in both series last year against Denver and this year obviously against OKC. And when you have a superstar like Anthony Edwards, the chatters are going to start soon, like where we know in this kind of ring culture or at least finals culture that there's going to be some expectations that you got to lead your team to the promised land. And it's going to be an interesting summer. They overachieved, as I said. They got a few free agents coming up this year and some big names on the team. And so Mike Connolly, long in the tooth, we've talked about.
18
I guess
years.
18 would be next year would be 19, I guess, right? Because it's 18 this year.
Yeah.
What does he do? He's got 1 year left on his deal, so that's an expiring contract. I don't know. I can't speculate about retirement and all that stuff. I have, no idea if that's even in the cards. I don't know, man. It's not going to be this place where you're going to get a ton of like free agent looks, because at the end of the day, it's not one of the kind of top teams, but
sure.
You get to play next to a guy like Ant Edwards and a team that made to the conference finals 2 years in a row.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I know we were talking earlier before kind of Gobert, him as well. I mean, is there something that stands out to you that they could change?
Well, obviously, first and foremost, Anthony Edwards is 23 years old, right?
Yeah.
So he's their franchise cornerstone. Like you're going to ride everything through him. Now, I think they're going to have to make some sort of change between having Gobert and Randall. Like, I just don't think in this NBA that lineup works, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just we thought it was going to be weird regardless. They did make the conference finals. So that's what kind of threw a monkey in the wrenches. Like, they actually still got to conference finals with this lineup. Now, I just think it's just clunky up front, right? Having the 4 and 5 right there, and especially in today's league where most of the time you have some sort of athletic big that can shoot and kind of stretch the floor a little bit more. And Gobert does none of that, right? So I know he's a great defensive player, but how much longer is he going to be that? Number one.
Yeah.
And then number 2 is I just think if they had a different type of big, that'd be pretty important for them. And then I would probably have an upgrade at that point guard position, right? I just think Mike Conley, yes, he's done a great job with them. I just think they're going to need more production from that spot in order to have a chance to get any further than what they've gotten to the last 2 years.
Yeah, look, Gobert had 2 and 5 today. I mean, I know, and I know today's game it's hard. It was such a blowout, but there has been a few of those this playoffs, and I do like before the so when we talked about like the Minnesota maybe shuffling their lineup, and I know I said it on social media a few nights ago, and Minnesota fans got all upset, and I hope you're happy now losing a series in 5 without making any changes, but yeah, like I know that he has like some sort of presence that maybe doesn't show in the stat sheets, but at the end of the day, numbers don't lie, right? And so I feel like that's productivity that they can get from maybe somebody that's a little bit more athletic and can do a little bit more on the offensive end.
Sure.
So that's a thought. I mean, obviously with his contract and things, and so they might be stuck with him. But Conley, I mentioned earlier. Look, probably a great locker room guy. Hard nose. Like again, maybe not one of these guys that show up in the stat sheet, but when you get to this part of the season, when you start playing teams that are incredible, your weaknesses like those two, unfortunately, really, really stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really separated, partly, not all, but what partly separated these two teams is like Thunder didn't have really two guys like that, a little older in basketball years. And so, yeah, man, I know we're going to send them to school soon later in the show. And obviously you're kind of do a little recap of the season, but they do have some free agents to be and a lot of question marks going into next offseason.
Yeah. And, the reality is like, can they get to the conference finals 3 years in a row? Right. So I think that's going to be going into next season. It's going to be like, wow, like staying pat and doing nothing. I don't know if that gets you there, especially with how tough the West is going to be next year. Houston's going to be a hell of a lot better, regardless of what that looks like, whether or not they make a trade for like KD or not.
Yep.
They're going to have the experience what they had from last year, and they'll be similar in the way OKC was, where they were really, really good for the regular season, but lost in the playoffs and then come back strong the next year. And you're going to have OKC there. Right, you can have all these players. You can have the Lakers there. Obviously, the Lakers are going to do something this offseason that will probably add to their team and have a full year of Luka. So, and then obviously you keep going down the line. You got Golden State, right? You have Denver. Those three that are going to be there. Denver. So it's going to be super tough to get back to the Western Conference Finals, I think, for the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it almost like I'd be curious to see what they do because I just don't see him taking a step forward. I see him taking more of a step back next year.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, not to we're going to have a Lakers topic in a second here, but it's just crazy what Minnesota did to them. It's all about matchups in these playoffs, man. Like series to series, like we don't know what would have happened with Golden State and them if Curry was playing. Hey, it could have been Minnesota. Could have been Golden State and OKC in the Western Finals, right? And so we'll never know. But yeah, it's tough. Like for them to exceed next year, again, they would have to go on 3 conference finals in a row, and that just doesn't happen very often. And especially with like them who haven't really been a top team per se standings wise, and so. Man, I mean, they're going to be in the mix, just like all those teams you mentioned. And they're going to, if they stand pat for the most part, they'll be in the playoffs and they'll be a tough out as they were this time around. But the more years you go and the less changes you kind of make, you just tend to, fall flat, as your years progress. And so we'll be interested to see what they do and, how things turn out next year.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's get into a little Lakers talk.
We haven't had that in a bit. It's nice. I figure
we got a little L back in the screen here. So
there we go.
Been hearing some rumors and some, things that are looking like LeBron will likely opt in. So my question for you, Eric, what does that mean if he does opt in? Is that like a signal for anything?
It is for me, and I don't I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm some salary cap expert. So there could be like a strategy with this, but if we're talking about the LeBron James I know, and the one that's been kind of doing this every season for a while now, or some years in Cleveland, some years here, right? Miami. He tends to sign like a 1+1. And so what that means is he opts out. He'll opt out of his contract typically, and then he'll sign a contract for 2 years, and then one being guaranteed, and the next year potentially opting out. And then what that usually does is it obviously gets him more money because the salaries usually go higher and higher as the years go on. And then it kind of tells you most likely he's playing, which the point I'm going to get at is he's going to play a second year. And so when the first thing I thought is when I saw that he potentially is going to opt in is like, this is it. It's his final NBA season. And he's finally decided that. I don't know if he's going to announce it early on.
Yeah.
We talked about how we think he's not going to have a farewell tour, but when it's pretty obvious what's going on, it just may be like, maybe with like 20, 30 games left in the season, he may mention it. So yeah, I mean, again, it could be like a salary strategy. I don't think it's anything to do with like him going somewhere else next year, nothing like that. If it happens, I truly believe year 23, year 8 with the Lakers will be his final season.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, he usually does the 1-and-1s, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I just see
I don't know.
so many scenarios where this next year is LeBron's last year. I mean, to me, where it stands out is he obviously wants to break the record and probably play the most seasons, which would be 23.
Yeah.
His number's 23, right? And he got his wish to play with his son. Now, the only reason if he were to stay for maybe one more year would be to play with Bryce, but I don't think we can really get into that conversation really. But I don't see him doing a full retirement tour. It would be kind of nice to know if he was retiring though, versus just like, I feel I'd be kind of disappointed if he just said, "Oh, I'm done. I'm not going to play." Right? It's his choice. Like, he could do whatever he wants. It's LeBron. He deserves to do whatever he wants. But I would like to see a little bit of love given to a player that's brought so much to this game. Right? Like, Kobe's retirement year was so meaningful. I think to the NBA and to Kobe. And I also just think that there's so much LeBron hate in general. I think it'd be nice to like have him in every stadium where people are actually cheering for him, things like that. Now it does make a little distraction for the team. So I was
going to say that
in Kobe's time, the Lakers sucked, right? So it was like, all right, this is the best thing that's going to happen to the Lakers all season is is Kobe doing a retirement tour, right? Because the Lakers were not going to be good at all. So I can understand that, but it'd be kind of nice to just know. But yeah, you don't know with LeBron. I don't think we'll really ever know.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice for sure. I mean, I know, like, according to us, like Laker fans and the Laker pundits, like, depending on what we do, I mean, we're seeing it as hey, we gotta make a run next year. You don't want to waste any Luka Doncic years.
Yeah.
And so great farewell tour would be awesome. But hey, we're trying to get once again a top seed. And we're trying to make a run in the playoffs. And so, and I think two things, they both can happen. I'm not saying if that happens, it's not going to happen, of course, for the Lakers, but that's what I guess I'm saying is, like, I wonder if LeBron may not want to do that for that reason alone. And, I know he's very polarizing and there's going to be a lot of chatter either way. People will say, oh, of course he's going to want to have like a full year. And then the others will say, well, yeah, I think he deserves it after playing 22 seasons and it being year 23. Yeah. So, I mean, only time will tell. Again, he hasn't officially opted in. It's just speculation at this point. It could totally change, right? I mean, he has until June 29th, I believe, to decide, late June. And so, again, we don't know if it's like helps out the Lakers salary cap wise, hurts it. I know sometimes when somebody opts out, it does provide a little flexibility. So that's something to monitor as well.
Yeah. Now, I know we just talked about this maybe possibly in his last year, but do you think he plays for another team at all? Or is just he's going to be with the Lakers no matter what, especially since they traded for Luka?
Yeah, I think them trading for Luka probably rejuvenated him a bit. I mean, I know he would love to win a 5th championship, and but I just get the feeling he's not like obsessed over it, because he knows that if he gets a 5th championship, it's going to be like, oh, because they got Luka. He's still one short of Michael with 6. He went to 11 finals and lost 6 or 7 or whatever it is, right? So I don't for him to leave would be to get another championship, and just, I mean, he's anchored down here in LA. Obviously, Cleveland and Akron and Ohio will always be his home. That's the one team I would see.
Who'd you say?
The Cleveland Cavaliers, the 1 seed Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you know? What are they? I wonder what they're missing. Maybe a little.
I don't know why.
Some.
I have this. I don't want to put rumors out there or anything like that, but I've been hearing some chatter about Austin Reeves and whether or not he's going to opt. He's not going to put sign an extension right away because he wants to opt into a bigger deal next year, which makes sense. And then there's been some trade, if we're going to trade, maybe Austin Reeves would be the person to trade. And so it got me thinking was, if there was ever a scenario for LeBron to play elsewhere again, I think that would be going home to Cleveland.
Yeah, that's the one team.
And the only thing I would see that would persuade maybe Cleveland to do it is if they got Austin Reeves with LeBron, right? I mean, I think giving up a lot for LeBron at this age is pretty difficult. But if you added maybe somebody else with it, that might entice them to create a better package for LeBron. And so I was like, well, I mean, the only thing the Lakers would need is a big. And that would be Evan Mobley, would be my only
Mr. Mobley
that I would essentially trade LeBron, Austin Reeves for a Darius Garland and Evan Mobley or something like that. Right. So, and then you get back a little guard and you get back a big defensive guy and that can do everything at the 5 position that Luka would want. Right.
Ooh,
and
imagine
he's
that.
a all-star. He will be an all-star and he would be something else at that 5 position. So those are it's, obviously haven't heard any of this stuff. I'm not trying to create
speculation.
Any rumors. This is more just if there was a scenario, I think that would fill the bill for Cleveland because you get LeBron, Donovan Mitchell, still have a Jared Allen or something, and maybe possibly Austin Reeves, right, in that trade. And I don't know if vice versa financially how all that works. But just interesting, some food for thought kind of on that conversation.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's a little out of the norm. I mean, we talk about how we just imagine or just assume he's going to, opt in and sign with the Lakers, but maybe he'll be opt in a trade. I mean, anything, I think we know it's going to happen, but anything is possible. I mean, when the Lakers traded for Luka, it was the sign of this is Luka's team.
Sure.
We got to start building a team that, we got to put players that's surrounding him that really fits his needs, as a ball player. And the sooner the better. Not to say him and LeBron, they had a nice little run together last year. Not to say that they can't do the same, but let's be honest. We're hoping we can get one with this squad, but we know that the next 6, 7, 8 years, hopefully if Luka resigns, is going to be about Luka being our star with complementary pieces. And
for sure,
that those seem like 2 nice complementary pieces from Cleveland. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's get back to the playoffs and preview the Game 5 between the Knicks and the Pacers. Do the Knicks have any chance in this series? No.
No,
you got real quiet over there.
Yeah,
you're bringing the gentleman sweep broom out again?
You know what? I'm just going to say this because I'm just hoping for it because I don't want 1 week of no basketball. Yeah. I did say when Indiana won the first 2 that they're going to either win the series in 4 or 6. So I'm going to stick to that. Okay. Man, Knicks came close in that Game 4. They had their chances. But obviously it was you see the final score. It was that score that we didn't think Knicks would be comfortable being in. So I like Knicks coming back at home. They lost their first 2 in Madison Square Garden. I think they got to get 1 over there. I see that happening. Not that I see Indiana packing it in, so to speak, because they've won other series in 5, right? I mean, they went into did they go into Cleveland and win Game 5?
Yep, they did.
Yeah, so Yeah.
Milwaukee in 5, Cleveland in 5.
What? Hey,
Knicks in 5.
so Knicks in 5, right? So, yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think I like New York in this one just because, man, they need to just get one game, and then hey, if they do win one game, then we can start talking about it if it's going to be a series again. And so, we'll see what happens. We know what the Knicks have to do, and just got to go out and do it.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers have completely just, man, I don't want to say surprised me throughout the whole playoffs, but how dominant they have looked throughout the playoffs has been quite shocking, right? I mean, because like they beat up on Milwaukee, right? They beat Giannis, but obviously Dame went out in that series. And then you go look at Cleveland. Yes, they had some injuries, but they beat him flat out in game 1, right? And then it wasn't to game 2 where they weren't playing. I mean, Darius Garland's out, but just in general, like they just handled Cleveland without even being a series at all, right? And what they've done to New York so far, right? Still in 2 games, first 2 games at home. Like who would ever thought they would win those 2 games at home like that? So I think they're surprising everybody. And playoff Halliburton. I mean, come on, let's talk about this performance from yesterday.
Yeah, we didn't even get the jump on and talk about it. I
know. 32, 15, and 12, and zero turnovers. I mean, he's by far one of the top 3 traditional point guards in this league right now.
Wow.
Like who would you put up there as like an actual point guard? Like, because think about all the players in this league right now, right? You got to think about like Chris Paul. He's a traditional point guard, but after that, who is a traditional point guard?
Yeah, right? I mean, we don't like it's with non position or positionless basketball these days. You're right. Like we don't really see that as much anymore, and so it goes to show there is still a place for it, no doubt.
Yeah, because he pretty much is what drives this team. Their engine only runs because of him. Like the way he can, like even if you can add up the hockey assists that he gets, the quick pass to somebody and another pass to somebody, right? If you were able to add all those factors into this game, you would realize what type of like stats that he actually provides to this team. Like he's so much more efficient than what he usually shows in his box score. But last night was just an amazing game out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the half he had like just crazy, either a triple double or almost a triple double, and so, I mean, the no turnovers, I mean, is such a amazing stat because when you have the ball that much, I mean that like you may say, oh, it's just no turnovers, like how's that a big deal? But you have the ball so much, like you're just bound to just have a turnover, right? It happens, and lose concentration for a second and get a ball stolen, maybe throw a ball. Like he's obviously passing the ball all over the place. So pretty remarkable. I mean, some of the point guards, if you think about him, like Drew Holiday, obviously Kyrie Irving and Curry are not your traditional point guards.
I can't.
Damian Lillard, yeah.
I mean, you put maybe Trae Young because he averages usually 10 or 11 assists, but I don't even see Trae Young as that traditional point guard, right? He's more of a scorer when I think about him. De'Aaron Fox, more of a scorer, right? There's not that many out there. Luka, more of a scorer and he's big. He's not really a traditional point guard. So he's up there for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's pretty impressive what we're seeing. Because he's also scoring. He's like there's those games that he's just like putting his team on his back from an offensive standpoint too. And we've already gone over all the big shots he's hit with those like 3 huge comebacks. Sure. He's really been the one at the end to hit the big shot, and so ultimately again, if we get that finals, him against SGA will be I don't know if they'll be matching up the whole time, but it'll be just kind of interesting watching the style of play between the two, some of the differences, some of the similarities. But man, it's we'll obviously be tuning in tomorrow, and we'll see. I mean, you think I don't know, like if you look at the stat sheet for the Knicks, right? Like when OG Anunoby is getting 20 plus like he did last night and they're still losing, ooh, we know what that usually means, right?
Yeah.
They were what, 6-7-0 before
That was
last
their first
night?
loss. First loss.
Yeah.
With
So that kind of tells me like, hey, and Cat is putting up some numbers.
Yeah.
But again, I think we've said it. I don't know how many times we've said it, but tomorrow's game needs to be 95 to 105, kind of around that. Yep. And I think the Knicks will be in good shape. But do you like them tomorrow, or do you see Indiana putting this away?
Man, like I listened to the press conference with the Knicks, and I heard Karl Anthony Towns talk about they didn't have the energy. They kind of weren't up for the task. Emotionally weren't there. So then you're just like, they checked it, like emotionally drained, especially and that's what I always thought from game one. When you lose that game one like that, the way they did, that just affects the series so much.
Oh yeah.
And similar, a couple other players. Mitchell Robinson was saying similar things, right? Like, yeah, we just didn't have it on defense. We didn't have the energy. We didn't have this, right? You're getting a lot of similarities, right? And is that coaching, right? Like, what are they trying to get at? Like, are they not ready, or they don't feel like they're pumped up to play, or they're just emotionally drained from game one? So I kind of have a bad feeling about this game. Like, I feel like Indiana just has this momentum, and they don't want to stretch the series out. And I feel like they're going to go into New York and probably bring out the gentleman broom sweep. Like, to be honest with you, I know everybody wants to pick New York because it's cool and all because they're in New York and you want to make it a series. But the way Indiana's been running and the way they push the pace and their fresh legs, because they got a billion guys coming in from off the bench, I just don't think the Knicks can keep up with them in the fourth quarter. And I think that's what it's boiled down to in most of these games is who's fresh at the end, and Indiana's been fresh the whole time. So yeah, I don't have a good feeling for the Knicks tomorrow.
We'll know pretty early, I think. Like if Knicks, I think they gotta have one of these games where they run away with it, and if it's early and they build a nice lead, I think there's a good chance. But if Indiana's close, or if Indiana builds a lead, yeah, man. I mean, look, after game one, we had comments about it. We know that the Knicks were gonna say all the right things. Like no matter how we lost, it's still one game. We still got to go and win in game two, which unfortunately they didn't. But yeah, I think you're right that like those games, I mean, just how when the Knicks beat Boston, those games mean a lot. And so when you have a game that you just pretty much had just ripped from you, it's huge. I mean, it's huge. Imagine it would be 2-2 right now, and it would be such a different series. And Knicks would, if it was 2-2, we would be favoring the Knicks because they have game 5 at home, right? You go up 3-2 and you got 2 games to win 1. And so, yeah, like by me, picking the Knicks, it's just purely on just gut feeling, home game. But I mean, if you look at Minnesota today, you thought they would probably come out, a little bit tougher. Obviously, it being different and being OKC versus because if this game was in Indiana game 5, I would say 100%.
Rap City.
And I hope at the end of the day, we either see a really good game or Knicks do win. So, hey, we have something to talk about Saturday night when they play game 6.
Yeah. I mean, you want to see a longer series, but
yeah,
if this game is in 60s in the first half, we all know what that means for the Pacers, and we all know what that means for the Knicks. And there's one guy I want to give a shout out because we have been bashing him. Ben Mathurin came out and played.
Oh yeah,
ball in game 4. I mean,
we
were getting it in with him because they needed somebody, especially if Aaron Naismith was going to be a little bit banged up, a little bit injured, which he looked fine, right? He was able to play through it, had a pretty good game. I think he had 16 points or so. But just having 20 points off your bench, and I saw him getting into it with Brunson, in his head a little bit. He's kind of got that, I wouldn't say, I don't know why it reminds me of him, but Lance Stevenson in him, where he's getting into players' heads, right? You saw that in the Cleveland series, got kicked out of that series. that game. Then you kind of saw him with Brunson, like he's tackling him, he's pushing him, he's in his grill the whole time. And you need those players to go up against kind of superstars, right? And that's what I was saying with like OKC. Nobody punked SGA.
Nope.
Ant tried to throw a ball at him for fun, but that's not punking him. Nobody put SGA on his ass. Nobody put him nobody got in his grill or anything. They let him be comfortable. And so I kind of like that out of Indiana is they don't play around. Like they got some players on that team that will get into your grill. And that was kind of cool to see that from Mathurin in Game 4.
Yeah, Mathurin must have been watching the Hoops Rehab show a couple nights ago because that we're gonna take credit for it because that must have been it because I know he wasn't on a lot of conversations on sports talk shows and we were talking about him because Aaron Naismith was questionable with that ankle. And so he ended up playing. So that's the reason why we talked about him because we thought, hey man, somebody's got to step up. And he really has been not doing much since he got kicked out against Cleveland. But we did talk about how he's having a hell of a season. And it was nice to see the young fella really just come out and play ball and be aggressive on offense, be chippy. And every, team you can use a guy like that that just doesn't take anything, right? And is kind of a bully. And so, yeah, man, that gotta give props to him, and look forward to see how he does tomorrow night.
He played 12 minutes.
Yeah, like you got like 20 points, right?
20 points, and he was 10 for 11 from the free throw line. Because I remember he was so aggressive in those 12 minutes, and just like. So, I mean, if you got a guy coming off the bench getting that for you, I mean, it's a wrap for New York if something like that happens again. But yeah, I mean, Indiana, man, they are so deep, and they play the 5 deep, and they really do. So they go 10, and they play 5 off their bench, and usually it's a problem.
Yeah, definitely. And I just wanted to add something. So I kind of one of the reasons why I'm hoping the Knicks win is I think you and I could both agree, or we pretty much have been watching NBA on TNT ever since we could remember watching basketball. And I mean, we're gonna still get Barkley and the guys next year, it sounds like. But that's one of the things it's kind of I don't know, it's kind of sad. It's basically the end. And so whatever,
it's not gonna be the same, right?
Yeah, totally not the same. I just feel like they're not going to be able to be as edgy and things like that. On the ABC, ESPN networks, I'm talking about Barkley and them and EJ and all them. And so yeah, that's the one thing I was like, man, it's I know it was coming and we knew it was going to come, and it's kind of sad. We're happy to see NBA on NBC back, but at the same time, it's gonna kind of sad to see NBA on the Turner network kind of go. And so that's I mean, since I've been watching, it's pretty much been such a big part of the NBA playoffs and the NBA regular season, whether if it was in the 90s when they were on TBS or obviously TNT and True TV and all that stuff that they're on now.
Yeah, no, it sucks to see them possibly do their last game tomorrow, right?
Could be it
for TNT, obviously be on ESPN, but I just don't foresee it being the same just because ESPN typically doesn't let people do whatever they want. However, they did let McAfee kind of bring his show and do
his
thing, and it's been a little bit more of his show-ish, right, on ESPN, which has been nice. But we'll see what they do with these guys, because I don't think Barkley would be putting up with that if they don't let him do whatever he wants to do. So
they had to have some sort of agreement on things, because
it sucks to see the whole crew. I mean, they have a whole production staff that has always been there in their Atlanta studio, right? And you see a lot of the same faces and people that have been there for a long time. So it's gonna be interesting to see. Without TNT, right? I mean, I'm excited about NBC just because that's our childhood. We grew up with NBC, and the John Tesh song comes on, you're just ready to go, right?
Yeah.
But
cool.
with all these platforms, Amazon's gonna be streaming games. You can have all these different type of platforms everywhere now, so that's gonna be kind of interesting to see. But there's gonna be a lot more exposure of basketball every day. So I think that's maybe the advantage that we'll get with all these other platforms kind of going in.
Yeah, I think, I mean, not to, I mean, we're getting on a topic of networks, but just, you said Amazon. I thought it's pretty crazy that they're going to be, so they're going to be hosting a conference finals like Amazon every year. Um,
Oh, they do like the full.
yeah. Yep. So
Man,
they're going to always have one conference finals and it's going to alternate. And then the other conference is
be
going to
ESPN.
alternate between ESPN and NBC.
Oh wow!
So
So there'll be a year without NBC or ESPN as a conference final.
yeah, I was reading on that the other day. I was like, wow,
Interesting.
like damn, Amazon's like, I mean, so yeah, I
Damn.
mean, for it being such a big, obviously the conference finals are huge. Like
Yeah.
just for it not to be on regular TV is like, man, the signs that
Amazon.
times have changed. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be wild. It'll be something that we got to get used to, and it is what it is, right? I mean, hey, we got a podcast, right? We got a show.
Yeah.
We're going live on things, so things are changing, right? People are streaming and people are watching, and it's all totally different than it was years ago.
Yep. Yep. It sure is. But at least that's what I
Alrighty.
read. It could be alternating now that I'm kind of seeing it, but I mean, we'll find out, soon what the layout is going to be. But yeah, coming soon. It's
Absolutely.
going to be. You got to have Amazon Prime to watch the conference finals. But anywho,
Wild times.
yep.
All right. So let's get to our last topic. And you guys know the drill. When a team goes out in the playoffs, what do we call it? We call it school is out. And in this first quarter, the Minnesota Timberwolves scored 9 points. So I like to say that they already got their bags packed. They signed the yearbooks for all their friends. They actually asked for early dismissal in the first quarter because it was so bad. They're
Yeah.
ready to start their summer vacay in the first quarter. So here's to the Minnesota Timberwolves who will be watching the finals from somewhere else. Go get you a beach and get you some beach toys here.
Got to get out of cold ass Minneapolis. Go somewhere nice. It looks like, as the doc said, you guys had your reservations planned out after Game 4.
Oh yeah.
I guess school was let out a little early for you guys, as you said, and so, hey, everybody goes to school, so all the way to the last. It's going to be Knicks or Indiana. One being in the conference finals or one being in the finals. So there's no team that's going to miss out the school bus. And so, hey, look, talked a little bit earlier about Minnesota. So I know I like to talk about how they did overall. So 49 wins, 33 losses in the regular season. The 6th seed had a nice little run, went to the Western Conference Finals. They do have some free agents to be coming next year. So I was going to say Karl Anthony Towns. Julius Randle does have an opt out. It is expected that he opts out, right? And so do teams look at this playoffs and say, oh man, like he could be our guy? Or do teams say, hey, we don't want to take a big risk on a one playoff run? And so that'll be interesting to see. And does Minnesota keep him, right?
Yeah. Do they have to pay him because he opts out, right? And they have no other players.
Yep. Unrestricted free agent, Alexander Walker.
SGA's cousin.
I know he would look nice in the purple and gold, for sure.
Little guy off the bench. There you go.
That would be a nice fit. But I can see somebody like him wanting to get paid.
There's another person that I know you're going to get to that'd be look nice in the purple and gold.
Who is it?
Nas Reed.
Moneyball Reed. So
Mr.
that's
Free
someone
Agent.
yes, he is. He could opt out as well, and he's expected to opt out.
Call Rob, Nas.
And he was someone that the Lakers were chatting with a couple of years ago before he signed his most recent contract. Sure. And so, yeah, I mean, Nas Reed was, we talked about after game 1 of the playoffs, it wasn't the same. But, he's a role player. You can't expect him to just be dominating every game.
Yeah.
He did his part. He's pretty good defensively, hits open threes. He's tall. And so, yeah, he's going to get some looks. And so, hey, we talked about earlier how Minnesota, what they're going to do, but just in their locker room and on their roster alone, there's going to be a lot of decisions to make.
Sure. Yep, it's going to be interesting summer to say the least for Minnesota. And I think they're going to have to make a lot of decisions here this summer to see if they can even come close to making a third appearance in the conference finals, which I think is going to be a long shot. But
yes, sir,
there comes a time we're only going to have 2 more schools out, 2 more summer vacays. We'll see if one happens tomorrow night. But until then, we'll see.
We'll see. Like as I said earlier, nobody's going to be running from the school bus. Where there's going to be 29 teams or whatever, 29 teams, right? That will be part of it, and so only one team can win it all, and that might be your Thunder.
Ooh, I think so.
We'll see about that.
All right, Eric. Good show. You got any last little comments here?
No, it's good to be back. Definitely looking forward to tomorrow's game and covering it for you guys. We at least have one more before the finals. And hey, let's see what happens. Let's see if the Knicks got one more big game in them.
Let's see what Indiana does. All right. So as always, everybody, we will be back on to wrap up the game tomorrow. And as always, Hoops Rehab team is out. Peace out, guys.
Peace out, everyone.